Open your phone and scroll through your contacts. Hundreds of names. People you went to school with. People you worked with. People you could technically message right now. Now ask yourself a stranger question. If you disappeared for 3 days, how many of them would notice before you told them? You can live in a building with 500 people, work with 30 more on a screen, have dinner delivered by someone whose face you never see, and still finish the day without one person needing you to be anywhere. That is a very new kind of human life. For most of our species' history, being physically alone was unusual. You woke beside other bodies, you found food with other people, you ate from the same fire. Children moved through a camp full of siblings, grandparents, cousins, friends, and adults who were not related to them at all. So did ancient humans ever feel lonely? The easy answer is no, they were never alone. The real answer is almost the opposite. Ancient humans probably could feel lonely because, back then, loneliness mattered even more. First, we need to separate two things modern life has tangled together. Solitude is a situation. Loneliness is a signal. You can enjoy an afternoon alone and feel completely connected to the world. You can also sit at a crowded table and feel as if nobody there would notice if you stopped speaking. Researchers usually describe loneliness as perceived social isolation, a gap between the relationships you have and the relationships you feel you need. It is not a head count. It is your brain's judgment about whether you are socially safe, and your brain takes that judgment seriously. In 2020, researchers asked 40 adults to complete 2 10-hour experiments. In one, they fasted from food. In the other, they were completely isolated from social contact. After fasting, people looked at pictures of food inside an MRI scanner. After isolation, they looked at pictures of social interaction. The midbrain responded selectively to whatever had been taken away. Food after fasting, people after isolation. The patterns were not identical, but they were similar enough to support a striking idea. Social contact can become something the brain craves, a little like food. That makes sense only if connection was never optional. Imagine waking in a mobile foraging camp. We cannot interview a person from 40,000 years ago, and present-day hunter-gatherers are not living fossils. But archaeology, comparative studies, and modern forager ethnography can help us reconstruct the social conditions in which our species spent most of its existence. A major study compared co-residents across 32 foraging societies, covering more than 5,000 people. The average adult experienced a residential band of about 28 adults. More surprising, many of those people were not close genetic relatives. Human camps were not just enlarged families. They were flexible networks of kin, partners, friends, and unrelated cooperators. That distinction matters. Your survival did not depend only on whether somebody loved you. It depended on whether enough people would share information, food, childcare, protection, and work with you repeatedly. Among the Hadza of Tanzania, researchers mapped the social networks of 205 adults living in 17 camps. Cooperative people tended to be connected to other cooperative people, and similarities in cooperative behavior extended beyond immediate friendships. The camp was not merely a crowd, it was a working network through which trust and help could move. Children made that network visible. In a study of Agta foragers in the Philippines, researchers recorded proximity in 1,701 relationships between children and people who were not their parents. Relatedness mattered, but so did reciprocity. Childcare flowed through siblings, grandparents, other relatives, and non-relatives embedded in exchanges between households. For a child in a world like this, belonging was not an inspirational sentence. It was physical. Someone held you while your mother worked. Someone older showed you where food grew. Someone noticed when you were sick because there were no locked doors and very few anonymous days. Adults were woven in through equally ordinary acts: sharing food, repairing tools, carrying water, watching a fire, removing lice from somebody's hair, talking about who had helped, who had taken too much, who was angry, who might leave. Among the Jew, Hansi studied by anthropologist Polly Wiesner, conversation changed after sunset. Practical daytime talk gave way to stories, jokes, distant people, and the social world beyond the immediate camp. This was not constant harmony. It was constant information, and that is where the comforting version of this story breaks. Living with people all the time does not guarantee that you feel understood by them. Small groups can care for you. They can also judge you, shame you, control you, betray you, or push you out. A person who lost a partner, entered an unfamiliar camp, became the target of gossip, or felt unwanted, could have experienced a painful gap between the connection they had and the connection they needed. We cannot dig loneliness out of a grave. Bones do not preserve subjective emotion. We cannot honestly calculate how lonely prehistoric people were or declare them happier than us. But the idea that they lacked the feeling makes little evolutionary sense. For a highly social animal, separation was dangerous. Alone, you lost extra eyes for predators, hands for food, care during illness, and protection while sleeping. A feeling that pushed you back toward other people could be useful, just as hunger pushes you toward calories. Social rejection still reaches deep into us. A famous 2003 brain imaging study found that exclusion engaged regions associated with the distressing dimension of pain. Later research has debated how literally we should compare social and physical pain. Rejection is not the same as a broken bone, but the overlap helps explain why exclusion does not feel like a minor administrative problem. It hurts. So yes, ancient humans probably felt lonely. They may have felt it most sharply during death, conflict, rejection, separation, or arrival in a group where they did not yet belong. But their loneliness existed inside a different social machine. In a small, interdependent camp, the signal was difficult to ignore. You still had to eat with people. Someone still needed help carrying, watching, gathering, repairing, or caring for a child. The same people appeared tomorrow and the day after that. Reconnection did not always succeed, but daily survival kept creating another point of contact. Modern life made a remarkable trade. It gave you privacy, independence, mobility, and the freedom to leave groups that hurt you. Those are real gains. A romantic return to compulsory village life would also mean returning to surveillance, obligation, and fewer ways to escape. But independence changed the way loneliness works. Today, you can satisfy almost every physical need while remaining socially invisible. You can earn money from home, order food, entertain yourself, and sleep behind a locked door. You do not need to reconcile with the person next to the fire because there is no shared fire. You can simply disappear from one network and open another app. The alarm still works. The automatic response does not. Worse, chronic loneliness can change how social information is processed. Reviews of the evidence describe a loop. Feeling isolated increases the desire to reconnect, but it can also increase vigilance for rejection. A delayed reply looks colder. An ambiguous expression looks hostile. You protect yourself, withdraw, and accidentally make the original isolation harder to repair. The hunger remains, but food begins to look dangerous. This is why having more contacts is not the same as belonging. Belonging is not just access to conversation. It is repeated recognition. It is having a role. It is being expected somewhere. It is knowing that your absence changes another person's day. Even weak connections can matter. In studies of everyday interaction, people reported greater happiness and belonging on days when they spoke with more classmates or acquaintances than usual. The cashier who recognizes you, the neighbor who asks where you were, the person who always saves you a chair. These relationships are not dramatic. That may be exactly why they resemble something old. They are built by recurrence, not confession. So what did we lose? Not a perfect tribe. It never existed. We lost some of the structure that made connection happen before anyone had to request it. Shared work, repeated places, overlapping responsibilities. The quiet certainty that other people would notice changes in your face because they saw it every day. Ancient humans did not live without loneliness. They lived in a world where loneliness usually pointed toward a visible social gap. Someone had died, someone had left, someone had rejected you, or you had become separated from the group. Our loneliness is stranger. The group appears to be everywhere. It glows from the phone in your hand, hundreds of names, Endless messages, proof that you can reach almost anyone. But connection is not the number of people you can contact. It is the number of places where your absence would be felt.